You want some big energy? I'll show you some big energy.
But sometimes I'm like, why am I the only one dressed up at a dress up party? That once you are finally to wherever you land in your costuming, then already you're at least 25% more prepared to have a good time.
Science. That is science right there.
Go.
Welcome back to Living Magic.
This is the fourth episode I think we've done, and I don't think we've actually said our names and introduced ourselves in any of the previous episodes, which maybe we will do.
Not today, though. Today is not the day for that
Today is
activity.
not the day. Do you think I could introduce you and you could introduce me, and then I could introduce the you are right now?
Okay, sure.
Okay, so this is Catherine. On a regular day, she doesn't look like this, but today she is Veronica. And that's what we're going to talk about today is the personas and the masks that we wear that allow us to be a different version of ourselves, right?
hmm Yeah, that allow us to show up in a way that we sort of want to show up in, but it feels hard to get into sometimes, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
Mm, Yep.
Now you have to introduce me.
This is Kyla. And really, it's always Kyla.
Mm.
Even with blue hair, even with furry glasses, I feel like you very rarely
Am I
switch
shining through?
out of yourself. Yes, you still are there.
Oh, I
Um,
appreciate that.
but
But I
you,
disagree, but I appreciate it.
well, I mean, there are times.
There
I
are
believe
times.
there are times, but I think that you are very good at expressing all the sides of you and letting those shine through authentically and uniquely you. And you don't necessarily need to always like mask up to do it, although it can be a helpful tool, which we will also discuss today.
Oh my God, it's so helpful to have an outfit together.
So
Okay,
helpful.
it's so much easier to see without these furry sunglasses. Um, it matters not. Let's talk about the first time I met Veronica.
Let's.
Okay, so a little history. I have a pretty phenomenal group of girlfriends, and seasonally, we do what's called Fairy Fest, where we get together and have a weekend of debauchery, essentially. There's a lot of dressing up that occurs, there's a lot of themes that go to it, there's a lot of other things that happen there too. And the first time I invited Catherine to a Fairy Fest, you like to be invisible. Let's talk about that too. She likes to be invisible. So she's like, now you see me, now you don't, or now you just don't see me.
I do.
And talk about that. Why is that?
Yeah. Well, first, let me say when you invited me, it was an immediate yes. So it was like, I remember where I was because I was on vacation with my family in at the beach in Connecticut and I got your text and it was for like October and it was July when you were sending it to me. I was like, absolutely, I 100% want to do this. I know I want to do this. Um, so just I knew it was going to be
Yep.
good for me. Um, I do like to go invisible. I I think that I have used invisibility as a tool again in my life to be more strategic in the people who I am friends with and the relationships that get created. Like by being invisible, I get to decide whether or not that's somebody that I want to get to know and get to befriend rather than showing up big and making a big splash and then having people be interested in getting to know me more. I get to decide whether or not that happens. So, like for most of my closest friends in my life, it's sort of like I see them and I'm like, oh, I know we're going to be friends. And then I just have to stop being invisible in front of them and let them figure it out too.
Right. And you're very real because I feel like when I mean we had crossed paths several times because our kids went to the same school, but before it was, maybe 6 weeks into school before we actually had an interaction that was more than just like, hey, good morning. Nice to see you drop off. And I remember that you were telling me about how you had traveled around the United States in a camper van for like a year with your kids. And I think my response to you was, that sounds awful. And
You were
so
like, oh,
it
how
was,
was that? I think you said, oh, how was that?
how was that? And then you said
It was
something what you
awful.
said. It was awful. And I was like, oh, thank God we can be friends. Like, but it was such a truthful response. Like, there's so much joy. I know you got a lot out of that. And like, it was also awful for so many reasons. I think I was in a place with my situation where I was like, I cannot imagine like keeping all four of us, like the amount of whining and needs and like no escape. But then I know the flip side of it is like the amazing things you see and that you learn and how you end up coping together. And I think you maybe nailed it at the right time in your life. And maybe I have surpassed that because I
I don't
would really like to challenge myself with a trip like that down the road. But maybe my kids are too old. I don't know.
know. You can do
We'll
it.
see.
You can totally still do it. Yeah. So that's true. I think that I am always an open book. And so it is sort of that sense of like like being invisible allows me to guard who I am an open book with, who like gets to see me and know me. Um, and so going into that weekend, again, I was very excited. I didn't feel like, oh, this is going to be hard at all. But I think getting there and it's like people who have done this before, everybody knows each other. I only knew you and your sister um and you everybody is having fun, obviously. And I
We
sort
hope.
of felt like I was being watched and like, is she having fun? Is she like not like in a
Um,
judgmental way, but sort of like, what's she going to be like? Like I couldn't be invisible very well. And I felt it. And I felt like I was like being checked on, like what's happening with her? Is she digging it? Is she good? Is this going to work for her?
she's
And
vibing.
I think that was probably so much on me and really not on what anyone else was doing, but that was sort of how I felt. And I'm also an introvert. And so, like, just being in a group of people for a long period of time sometimes makes me even more want to go invisible and just like recharge. So, that's the backstory. Do you want to continue with how you met
Yes.
Veronica? Yeah.
So I don't even know because you were invisible where you went, but all of a sudden I was like, who the F bomb is that? And you like come up, like I don't even know your pose. Like it was like a hip was out,
I had that like leopard. It was like a leopard.
leopard onesie.
Yeah, it was like a leopard onesie with shorts because it was like
Was there fishnets involved?
there were no fishnets. I had very little
I
gear.
remember your legs. They were
My
nice.
legs, because the shorts were short and my legs were long. I have
Oh
long
yeah.
legs and
With
white.
like your long black Veronica hair. And I was like, oh my God, and that's what we named you. We're like, who is this? And she's clearly here to party, and I don't think we should mess with her
Oh,
because for
no.
reals, she is gangsta. She's pulling some gangsta stuff out and she is ready to rock this party. And Veronica stayed for a long time. Like when you would leave, we'd be like, oh, there's Catherine. Like finally I can see you. But Veronica's energy kind of stole the show. I mean, there's some big energies in there, and Veronica's like, oh, you want to play with big
You
energy?
want some big energy? I'll show you some big energy.
Let me just bust her out. Yeah, it was hilarious.
It was, it did feel like, it felt like a releasing of a shadow side too. Like it was like, okay, I put on my dark hair. I'm going to bring out some dark energy, like not dark energy, but that sort of like,
Badass
I'm
energy.
gonna
Yeah.
like, yeah, show up in this like darker way. And it was very fun to like be playing a role and be like, she did not smile. She just would be
No,
like,
with a look. Everybody's like, how can we serve you? Would you?
yeah, bring it. Give it to me now.
I really hope people watch this instead of just listening to it. You can really get the vibe. You really
We
have the
do.
vibe right now.
We do recommend to watch this one. Watch this one. So it
Watch it.
was, yeah, it just felt, it was like in that context, Veronica felt right at home. She was like, I can
You
do this.
did.
I am here for this. I will dance. I will be seen. That was it. It was like Veronica didn't care about being seen. Like she showed up. She didn't care. It wasn't like she wanted to be seen, but it was like, I don't care. If you look at me, you look at me. If you don't look at me, you don't look at me. Doesn't matter to me. Because I'm Veronica.
I'm Veronica. I mean, none of you, but here I am. Anyway, I just love that whole thing. So, anyways, you show up as Veronica. I feel like we had a solid, like, I don't even know how long of laughing while you just stayed stoic in you like held your character strong.
I
And
know.
we could not get over it. I could not get over it for the longest time. It was so fun. I was like, can you just wear that all the time? You're like, no.
I know.
Mm.
I know. Well, that's the part of it where it's like, oh, do people like Veronica better than they actually like the real personality that I have? And I think that coming away from that, obviously, no, that's not true. But then you also are like, oh, I should bring some of this to every day.
Like add a little speck of Veronica in. And you don't even have to put on the wig to do that. It's just the tude. Like I'm like, give me the look. See? It's just that look, but with the wig and I don't know, it just all comes together so good.
I know. But I couldn't do it without it. I needed the costume to first find it. And I think that that's the point of this is like it there are times in life where putting on a mask is like faking it till you make it, sort of. And again, it's not like you don't want to do this if you feel really out of place, but if you're like, yeah, I want to get into the fun of this. Like I want to be here and be present for this, but there's a part of me that feels like it's being blocked. Then put on a wig and put on some glasses and
Oh, so much.
dress up for it and show up and just like it'll happen. You will find that part of yourself.
You will settle into your character for sure. I think this just downloaded into my brain to share. I know. I don't remember being, I was and remember being a very shy kid. And my sister has joked recently, she's like, that's so funny. People think you're the extrovert. And really, it turns out I'm the extrovert and you're the introvert. You're like secretly an introvert. And like that is my core is like this very shy, like little girl. But I remember being at a birthday party of a friend of mine, at a like 5-year-old birthday party. And one of the challenges, I think, or like birthday games was to get to play dress up. And this particular friend who's lovely loved playing dress up because she didn't have TV. So that's all we did when we go to her house. It's like boxes of dress up. And I, at this party, felt very uncomfortable because I did not like to be at parties where there was people that I didn't know. And I just remember layering so many layers and I won the contest. There was no rhyme or reason, but I won that contest and I just now remembered that. And it was like Kyla is so creative as she hides herself under as many layers as she possibly can. But then I felt fine. I was like, and now I win. Right. Let's cover up the very fragile inner child and show up as whatever this creature is that you've created from all of these costumes. And I was like, oh, so it's interesting that that came through. Like that feedback is you win because you have the cleverest costume. And I'm like, sweet, because I feel real safe to be whoever it is you need me to be now.
Yeah. No, I think that's exactly the way to phrase it, to like feel safe to be sort of what's expected of you. But also in both of these scenarios too, it's sort of like, and we want to feel comfortable in those situations. It was like we were in a place where you don't want to feel like, oh, why is this hard for me? You want to
Right.
feel like, yeah, I want to be in the fun of it. I want to like unlock the fun of it. And it did take a little bit of like covering up and altering to open up that possibility of like, right, okay, I can settle into it. And then you can like feel it and you can start to like be in the actual energy of the room rather than in your head, which I think is where I was at the beginning of that whole thing. Like, who's watching me? What are they expecting of me? What? And then it was like, no, okay, I can just like be in the fun. And then when Veronica would go away, she came up a few times that weekend, but
You
like
did.
when she would go away, I was like, oh, I can just settle in and be here as me too, because now I know how it feels to just be here and not be in my head about being here.
Yeah, it's interesting, but I also feel like the same is true like when they say, for if you're going for a job interview, they're like
Right.
just dress for the part you want, right? And then you put that on and you're like, "Oh yeah, I am feeling this. I own this. And this is kind of what I tell my clients when I'm photographing them, when they're like, what do I wear? Well, I could give them all sorts of advice on like not mixing patterns and don't get too bright with your colors. But what I always say first is you have a favorite outfit that you feel the best in, and you know what it is, and you save it for special occasions. And when you're getting photographed, it's a special occasion, and you wear those outfits, whatever they are. You wear what makes you feel super confident and that you're like, I look bomber in this outfit. That's what
Hmm.
I want to photograph you in because that will be reflected back into the camera and essentially into your imagery. And that's what you want. You want like, well, yeah, you want to feel good in the photos that you look at, so you got to dress the part.
Yeah. So that you can bring that part out of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And even that sense of there is like a bit of ceremony to it too. I mean, it took us a while this morning to get ourselves here to this
Yeah.
place. And like, I, as I told you, like, it's been a rough week for me. I have not slept well. I have not, there's just been a lot going on that has like really thrown me off center. And I sort of, that's why we were not planning on having this conversation today, but I was like, can we just put the wigs on and like
Yeah.
make it happen? Because I know that will make me feel better and bring me to a different place. And that's what I need right now.
Right. But it is like this, like I have to relate this back to photography because I can have people come and they like dress up in whatever they are. And a lot of times I'll do for women, if it's that like a boudoir look or these like healing shoots, it's like we're going to dress up real big and then we're going to take it off and be real raw. And by that point, they're ready to be vulnerable. But I think it's true the same in life. It's like you can put all of this on to mix and mingle and get into where you need to get. And then eventually you're going to shed that with the people you feel safest with. And maybe you can identify those people by putting on your costume. And yeah, and then you can just like let that go and really step into like a deeper essence of who you are because it is like a layer of protection, but it's still you inside there, right? Like all of these masks that we wear are certainly all parts of our personality. And maybe that not the biggest part. It's just like an essence. It's like a little like flavor. It's a shell.
Mm-hmm.
And we're sort of dressing up the shell. And then once that shell is cracked, it's like, oh, you want to go a little deeper inside and get to know me a little bit better. But we all kind of have that shell first because that's our protective layer, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That the idea of like armor has been coming up a lot for me this week in my energy sessions that I've been doing with people too. Someone used the term that like they feel like they're shedding the armor of responsibility that they've carried. And I
Mm,
was like, oh, that's such a good phrase and so evocative of what so many of us do carry. But it does almost feel like in the process of shifting into Veronica, it was like, okay, I'm going to take off the armor that is on top of me to protect me in this group situation that feels a little uncomfortable. And then I'm going to put on this like facade, but the armor isn't there anymore. Like I took off the armor and I put this on instead. And it's
mm,
like more permeable. It's like, okay, there's still these parts of me are now able to come out because that armor isn't there, but it's still a little bit safe. And like you said, like over time, then the glasses can come off, the wig can come off, and then it's just you, no armor, no mask, and you've been able to use it to help like ease you into the comfort of being fully yourself in that state.
and it's interesting how even it's like, well, maybe this is why we're talking about this, but that starts at a very young age, like deciding like how do I fit into this culture, this society, these friend groups, like where do I land, right? So we start to build up that armor from a very early age when we figure out that we do need to protect ourselves to exist on the planet. Um, and then it's a constant, like an ongoing process of letting some of that go. Like it's a very fragile feeling place to be vulnerable with these earth bodies, these bodies, these human flesh suits that we're wearing.
Mm-hmm.
So
It
it's
really is.
constantly a reminder to, not a reminder, like I don't think we need to be reminded to do it. It's just, it is a move forward movement and personal growth when you can be very authentic. And that is not the easiest thing to do.
Right. So we suggest put on some fake stuff and you'll be more authentic.
I mean, it kind of feels, isn't that funny? It's like the
Yeah.
reverse. It's like the yin yang. Like I can be more myself when I have all of this shit on
Yeah.
that represents
Pieces of you.
pieces. Yeah. It's a little piece of me.
Yeah. It is interesting too because uh, the second Fairy Fest, I brought Veronica, obviously,
Hmm.
her stuff, but I never needed to put it on. I never, that weekend, it was like, it wasn't
Different vibe.
necessary. It was a different vibe, but also just I was there from the beginning. And so it was like, oh, I don't need to switch out of myself. I'm like here fully enjoying it from the first moment.
Right. And it's interesting. So for me personally, I feel like people kind of expect a version of like the fun. Like I really enjoy like that with my values, fun. So I really enjoy facilitating fun, creating fun, and being in the fun. But that's not me 100%. Like um, I can't be in that all the time. I have to recharge. And a lot of my recharging is not with people. Like I want to be really far away from them, all of them,
All
which
of
is
them.
hard
Mhm.
because that's hard to create that space. And because a lot of times the people that I need you, like my children need me. So it's hard to create space to just do me sometimes. Anyways, I feel like if I get invited to stuff, this is the persona that they want at the party. They want my version of Veronica, whoever she is. That's who's
Mm.
being invited, which is great because that is a really fun person to be and to hang out with. But if I'm not feeling that, I'm like, I really don't want to show up. Like I just don't have that energy to show up. It's big energy that fills up the room, and like you said, like I want to choose when
Yeah,
I want to fill up a room.
exactly. I can see how you would think like that's what people want you to show up as, but I also would challenge you to just remember all of the times where you just showed up as you and also created joy and just by
Right.
your simple presence being there and being fully present in the moment. I think that you create joy with whatever version of you shows up easily. And it's just like trusting that whatever version of you wants to come is the exact version for that's right for that moment.
Totally. And I think for me, sometimes it's easier around people I don't know to be like the bigger version. Like,
No, it's 100% easier. Yeah.
it's easier. Like
Yeah.
this is, and it disappoints me a little bit when other people don't show up, like to dress up parties, undressed. I'm like, you are missing out on so much fun right now. Like this is an opportunity to just let it go. Like
Hmm.
nobody, this the recent party from this weekend, people were like, what color is your actual hair? And I'm like, doesn't matter, does it?
The
Because it
mystery.
doesn't matter.
But I think also like that being disappointed when other people don't show up in a costume is sort of like forcing them to show up in the big energy when they may not be ready for it too, right?
Right.
And
Yes.
so it's more like be the example. You guys were the example. Veronica showed up and then it all played out the way it needed to play out.
Right. But sometimes I'm like, why am I the only one dressed up at a dress up party?
That is silly. Why is it a dress up party if no one is dressed?
It's just not that hard. Like, how long did it take you to put on a wig and a pair of glasses? It's just really not that hard. I think this is certainly me judging, but it might be nice to have a costume bag, right? It doesn't
Hmm.
matter if you wear the same black or blue wig to
Hmm.
every party. People
Yeah.
might come to expect that from you, but at least you arrived in something, you know?
Hmm. Yep. Yeah, you took the initiative.
Right. And doesn't it make sense also that, don't you agree that the most fun part typically is getting ready?
Of course, always,
Yeah,
forever and ever.
right. So why did people take that from themselves?
Yeah, that's a good question. It was like in college, it was just a given that that's when you're going to have the most fun and you're going to spend a lot of time getting ready and then you'll have fun too. Like why as you become an adult does that shift? Probably because you're getting ready a lot with kids. You're like, I'm always getting ready.
Yeah. And this is the one it's a good time to push through because you've
Hmm.
kind of forgotten that you also like to have fun.
Hmm.
You will have more fun if you dress up.
Hmm. And the kids find it very funny too.
The kids find it funny too. That's true. But that is a real honest truth right there. People don't realize, I think, because it feels like work when dressing up becomes like work, and sometimes it does, that once you are finally to wherever you land in your costuming, then already you're at least 25% more prepared to have a good time.
Science. That is science right there.
Science. That is energy, that is science, and therefore that is fact. Let's
End it there. We are done. No, absolutely. I think you're right.
How about every day when you just wear your everyday mask out to
Can we talk
public?
about that, please? I mean, that is my invisibility. It's like a cloak for me. It's not even a mask. It's like, I mean, the number of times I know no one, I could know 10 people in this room and no one will know who I am because I just go invisible. So mine's pretty, I've got a strong game with my cloak.
You do. I have a strong game with my hair. Like
Mhm.
people are like, you changed your hair. I didn't recognize you.
Oh, and that's it. It like changes you into somebody else.
Yeah, and my sister's like, I never see, like, I always see you. Like, you could get your hair done and I don't even notice. And I'm like, that's right, because you're my sister.
Yeah. Do you feel like you wear a mask frequently?
We just talked about how this is a survival technique. I think it is so ingrained in me now that it became such a great tool, a coping tool to be around people and to mingle and to connect. Wearing them, I don't know, like it helps to it kind of reforms your personality.
Yeah.
Then I think when COVID happened and it was like, oh, we don't have to be around people. And then I had to be around people again. I was like, wait a second. I like not being around people. And that's when my sister was like, whoa, you really, that did a number on you. I'm like, no, it just like reminded me who I am, which is not that social. Like I pretended to be social my whole life because I needed to get all of this stuff done. And it's
Yeah.
not like I don't like people, but I just realized I am more of an introvert than an
Yeah.
extrovert. And I don't know, since high school thought I was an extrovert, but that again was like, oh, we need to be loud to win this game. We need a cheerleader. We need to, you know, pump up our team. Like
Mhm.
I can do that. Is that what you want? I'm no good at sports, but I could be loud. Let me be loud for you because I'm a warrior.
You are a warrior. Yeah, I mean, I very much, I think my mask has actually gotten, like, I have an invisibility cloak, but my mask has gotten weak,
Less.
which means I like am really bad at interacting in social situations. For example, there was a bingo night at my kid's school.
Oh, you hated that night.
I texted you when I got back. Like, I actually think I'm not good at being around people anymore because, first of all, it was a gym packed with hundreds of people. So that was overwhelming. That's a lot of energy in a room.
Yeah.
But also, I just see all these people like making chit chat and small talk. And I will stand next to someone and be like, okay, this is when you make small talk. And it is like my mind goes totally blank.
I cannot formulate words at this time. Come
And then
back
I just
later.
my ability to like put up like a you're a normal person that can have normal conversation mask is sort of gone now. And I'm okay with that. But you do recognize it when you're in a group and you're like, oh,
Oh, that was wrong.
this is easier for other people and this feels hard for me.
Yeah, and I don't think, well, I'm curious how many people that's hard for. I feel like that was hard for me for a long time, and then I don't like feeling uncomfortable, so I just bomb through it, you know? It's kind of like if you're at a dance and no one's dancing, I am happy to be the first one on the dance floor. Like, this feels uncomfortable and weird. Let me go ahead and bust the moves, break the awkwardness. You'll see what a great dancer I am, which is not
Fact.
necessarily true.
Fact.
Fact, but I'm like, I'm okay with being an awkward person
Right.
Like I will take the heat for the awkwardness and then hopefully that will alleviate the whole vibe of awkward in the room, you know? So same like when people are like, I don't know what to say in business groups or like, I don't know where we start. And I'm like, I will happily lead this so that we can get out of this. I don't like feeling this awkward feeling.
Right.
So let's just boom, 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 boom. Let me give some directions if I can be helpful because I've done this before.
Hmm.
And then everybody's like, oh, yay, someone did something like that stagnant, like I don't know how to ice break. I'm a good icebreaker, I feel like,
Oh, I'm sure
even
you
though it's
are.
uncomfortable for me, you know,
Yeah.
but I don't want to be in this uncomfortable state for long. Let's
It's a,
move through
yeah, you've done it enough. It's a muscle that you've exercised. But so
it.
how
Right.
then do you take off that mask more these days? How can you do that?
You mean to just be myself?
Hmm. And not feel the pressure to show up
It's
as
just giving
this
less.
fucks.
You said the word. I like that word so much. I'm trying so hard not to use it.
It's Veronica. She'll say whatever she wants to
Veronica
say.
does what she wants. But yeah, I think the more that you stop carrying like this, I think that is kind of it though. Um, that people can connect more when they realize everybody's struggling a little bit with something in life, right?
Mhm.
And so, yes, we want to show up, especially as entrepreneurs, as professionals, and that we know what we're doing, but we are also showing up as humans. So I am like just allowing myself to be more human. I am working through a perfectionism quality, which my kids have really helped me with a lot. So
Do that, don't they?
they do. They just are like, let me eliminate that for you. And here we go.
Nothing perfect at all
Ready, set,
anymore.
go. No, it's not perfect. It's very messy. So I think like we try to create structure in life, and I've certainly arranged that for myself, some structure. And I'm less and less good at it because I'm just allowing myself to be human in the process and being responsible for that, but also being like, that's not going to happen now because I ran out of hours in the day, you
Mhm.
know? So
Yeah.
here's my human self. And I think just kind of being okay with there's just so much of it that you have to work on to maintain. And you're going to drive yourself insane if you don't like let your guard down a little bit and be like, okay, I'm going to give myself a human day where
Hmm.
I can just. So the more days that I have like that, the easier it is to just arrive as I am, giving no fucks.
No
I
fucks.
said it. We might have to bleep those out
No,
in case we
but
have.
I
But
don't think so. You can have an explicit
I
podcast.
say what I want to
Say
say.
what you want.
Are we going to say anything magic?
Yes. Let's share something magic.
I got to go to a magical person's 50th birthday. Um, and I had some reservations going into it because I just wanted to spend time with her and not be around people. But then I just was like, let that go, remain neutral, enter in. And it was certainly entering into a vortex, and there was much magic that unfolded. And I did have to mask up to arrive in my personality to be comfortable. And once I was there, it's fine. So, but
Hmm.
that wasn't the magic part. That was just the, old school ways of existing.
Getting into the magic
I
a
was
little bit.
getting into the magic. I
Hmm.
was entering the vortex in costume as desired. People desired that. I mean, everybody, myself included. And then we went to a concert and it was raining and outdoors at Red Rocks, and it was beautiful. And also, I just didn't realize how many people would show up to a concert with so much rain. But anyway, at one point I had to go to the bathroom and I couldn't find a bathroom. And then we went up to the higher top and I was like, while we're all the way up here, we should see if we could see a view of the whole stage. And somehow I like slipped through this thing, like not trying to break rules, but ended up in like the VIP section where I watched the rest of the concert from. Like I think you had to pay like $600 for tickets up there. And I was like, huh, it's very empty up here because no one pays $600 for concert tickets. I mean, if you do, but I think the reason we didn't get kicked out is because we were vibing. Like we were dancing. We weren't bothering anybody.
You're adding to
We
the
were adding to
frequency.
the frequency. And they were like, sweet, yeah, bring it. Because all the rest of these people are just sitting in chairs. And there was, I mean, I wasn't blocking anybody, but we were dead center looking down and in VIP, and it was magic. And then um, other magical people joined us. It was a non-issue. One person that was trying to tell us to leave, who was just a person, was told by the other people that you needed wristbands to be there. And we didn't have any, but they didn't kick us out. So we remained.
You were meant to be there.
I was meant to be there, and it felt magical. Really did. And I was like, so funny that here I am in VIP on accident, but not because I was supposed to be there.
Because it's where you belong. You're
I belong.
VIP.
Yeah, it's like I'm like a magnet, straight to it.
You are.
Magnetic source to the VIP section, please.
Okay, I have two quick ones. I'll do two quick
Okay.
ones. My daughter and I went to some thrift stores, and I had been to a thrift store the day before by myself because I was looking for stuff. And there was this wall hanging that I loved, but I didn't buy because it was $100 and it just seemed a little too expensive for me. And then we went to a different thrift store, my daughter and I, the next day. The same exact wall hanging was there for $65.
Magic.
Magic. And then we went and we bought a whole bunch of cute little fairy, like mushrooms and little houses and birds. And we created a little fairy patch in our garden bed.
Oh, I love that.
She had wanted to do that for so long, and I was so excited to do it with her, and it's adorable. And then I felt like crap today, and now I feel better. So that's also magic.
See? You're loaded. You are loaded with magic. All right. Well, thanks for listening.
Veronica, signing out.
Veronica signing out, but you can sign into your Veronica anytime you need to. And you can strap in for a better day, right?
That's right.
So hit your wagon to a rainbow.
Hitch your wagon to a rainbow.